Seifars HaOmer, and other times of Avelos, of mourning of Klal Yisrael. So it's an interesting question because there's no question about it that music today is way more common and ubiquitous than it used to be. Until there was recorded music and it was available to everybody, the only way to listen to music was either to be sitting where there was a band or for people to be singing together and making music together. So the translation of how music was dealt with in the halacha over time has also sort of changed with the way that we listen to and use music. So I want to address this, and I'm going to just read actually through a few of the sources so that we are all very clear on where this prohibition is, what's actually prohibited, and what's okay. So it starts with the Shulchan Aruch telling us that we are noheg minhagim, this is in Siman Taf Tzadi Gimel, we're noheg certain minhagim of mourning during this time. However, the Shulchan Aruch says it's fine to get engaged and la'aris, l'shadech, la'aris, to get actually engaged as they used in those times. That's permissible to do, even though we don't get married. We don't have marriages during this time of mourning. However, to get engaged, even an official engagement, like a halachic engagement, so that is permissible. However, the Mishnah Brura here on this halacha, he says, "B'kol makom, mutar lasos shiduchin v'lasos seuda." You could even make like a vort, like an engagement party, to celebrate the joining of the shidduch. Avalasos rikudin umcholos nahagu iser. However, to dance, a rikud is one or two people, a few people like dancing in place. A machol is a group of people dancing in a circle together. So to dance in any which way, nahagu iser. That we are knowing that we don't do during this time. The kol shekain b'shar rikudim u'macholos shel reshus bavada yesh lizar. And certainly if it's not for a mitzvah, not for a simcha of a mitzvah like a shidduch, but just some people getting together to dance, so that is not okay. So that's it. That's all that we have in the Achronim. There's no mention of music or listening to music because that wasn't really what the prohibition was about. It was about a dancing and a simcha of having dancing and getting together in that way. So music is only been discussed now in the poskim in the last generation or two when music has been so widespread. So I want to read to you here from a Sefer. It's called Halachos Shlomo, written by Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach's Talmidim after his Petira, but it's all the Psakim and the halachos that Rav Shlomo Zalman held and taught to his Talmidim. So I want to read how he phrases it here, and this will put into the context about how and under what conditions one can and cannot listen to music. Yesh lihimana, this is in Perek Echad, the 11th Perek, number 14. Yesh lihimana b'yam me'ila mikol shira hame'oreres l'rikud u'mechol. So what's prohibited? It's an extension of like what we just saw in the Mishnah Brura from the Achronim, that dancing is prohibited. So any music that's going to bring a person to dancing, that's the type of music that is prohibited during this time. Aval shira hameromemes es ha'adam ach eino v'yasa l'rikud u'mechol muteres. But the type of singing that is invigorating or elevating and inspiring, but it doesn't bring you to dance, so that is okay. And he writes even explicitly, "V'chein shmias pirkei chazanos uneginos klasiot v'chodoma yesh lahatir," like listening to classical music. So this puts it into the framework that the prohibition, again, is really rooted in dancing. So music that's going to bring a person to dancing, music that's upbeat, and maybe even when you're listening in your car, but you're listening to really upbeat music and you're going to move around in your car and dance to the music. So that's already the type of music that's a problem. But to listen to music in the background or listen to music in a context that's not going to bring you to dance and not make you come to dancing, so that is not really the music that's prohibited. However, he brings down here in the footnote, Hosif Rabbeinu, the ein linhog heter b'zeh b'shofi. You shouldn't just make this a blanket heter. The sof nagu b'miyat simcha b'yamim eile v'rak shekayem siba lakach yesh lahatir. Still, we shouldn't just be listening to music freely during this time. It is a time that we're supposed to be mamayit our simcha. So lahalach, I say is as follows. For us in our generation, the listening to music is not something that again, there is certain music that brings us to simcha, makes us feel happy and feel like moving. So that's the music to stay away from. But listening to other music during this time that keeping you going, certainly for exercising or anything along those lines, where you have music in the background, people feel music helps them study, anything like that is for sure permissible. But also, a person feels down and they need to listen to music to help them feel okay. That's not the simcha that we're talking about here. The simcha is like the upbeat, jumpy, happy simcha, not keeping a person out of a depression because it's helping them by listening to music. So that's obviously each person has to know for themselves under the circumstances. But the root prohibition is that type of music that is jumpy, that brings a person to dance, and listening to slower music is for sure not on the same level at all. In this context, I say to everybody, I don't see any difference between a cappella or regular music. It's the type of music that is being played, rather than how the music is being formed, whether it's by voices or by instruments. Okay, so that's the summary of music during these times. If it's needed for something, a person is allowed to listen. If it's just there to make you happy, to be mesameach you extra, this is a time of miyot simcha. So we shouldn't be listening to music that's going to make us extra happy during this time.